You know, before I start things off, I have to say that Your Lie in April was a pretty fitting title. Because ironically, the anime was never released or finished in April. Alright, I know there was a reason for it in the anime, but come on, I couldn't help it. Anyway, my obviously brilliant comedy aside, I went into Your Lie in April with the feeling that this was going to be an amazing drama. And surprise, surprise, that is exactly what I got. And this is all coming from someone who has never had any interest at all in going to a musical performance, and has a musical skill level to that of me smashing my head against a piano. But what I really love about this anime is its brilliant drama, its three-dimensional, complex, and relatable characters, all intertwined with a very moving story, with all of these elements easily making this an absolutely amazing anime. The show starts off by focusing on Kosei, who was once one of the most promising musicians in Japan. Well, until his mother dies, which leaves Kosei mentally scarred and unable to hear the notes whenever he plays the piano. It looks like this is the end of Kosei's performing days, until a high-energy girl named Kaori gets him to play again in hopes that he will overcome this challenge. Starting off, let's talk about Kosei, who is an amazingly complex and well-crafted character. The first element that makes him so good is he's easily one of the most sympathetic characters I have ever seen. I mean, they set him up perfectly. Being, as a child, he was pushed by his mother to advance his piano skills, even to the point of suffering abuse. Whether that is just forcing him to play a piece until it turns out perfect, no matter how long it would take, or even beating him until he plays a piece right. While the whole time we receive more and more information at a steady pace throughout the whole show of the story of Kosei and his mother. We see why his mother's desire makes her be so abusive, and we also get to see how this affects Kosei psychologically, with people calling him names that make him feel robotic for all the work he has to do, such as the human metronome, along with at a point only believing that playing the piano was the only thing he had of value. But even with all of this, the cherry on top is that Kosei ends up wanting to go through his mother's sadistic training program, with the hope that if he ends up playing good enough, this might make his mother happy, and she might be able to overcome her illness and go back to being more loving like she was before. Although when she does die, Kosei ends up getting so traumatized with the event that he becomes unable to hear the notes of the piano whenever he plays. That's extremely psychological when you think about it. Not to mention, there is really no way not to feel bad and care about Kosei, who ends up losing his talents just because he wanted to make his abusive mother happy. Now, before I talk more about him, I need to talk about Kaori, who is the other amazing character this show can boast. Now, one of the many things I liked about her character is just how the creators make her personality, which, to be frank, is one of the strongest I have ever seen. She is very lively, passionate, caring to those around her, spastic, and carefree. But what really sets her out from other characters of similar personalities is how strong and unique her presentation is. I mean, she enjoys playing and being around children, is crazy enough to want a pianist who can't hear notes to play with her. She feels that it's cool just to use a window as a door, and even says quite a few unpredictable and unique things. I mean, when was the last time you can remember an anime character trying to encourage someone with Charlie Brown of all things? Her crazily energized and unique personality just made me love every single second she was on screen. Not to mention, her personality worked very well off of Kosei, and his feelings of worthlessness as regards to the piano. Another thing that makes her so likable with Kosei is that while she does push him, she doesn't abuse the guy. Even going to the point to apologizing to Kosei when she thinks that she might have pushed him to do something that he would hate. Even though the viewer would most likely see that she didn't do anything wrong, this lets us know that she does care about him and isn't trying to ride off of his past success. But luckily, just like Kosei, there is so much more going for her than what we just see at first, as her and Kosei's character grow throughout the whole story and have several great interactions and drama between them, with the overall progression of the story creating some strong drama, good tension, and realistic development. With one of the main catalysts being just how well paced the interactions and drama between Kosei and Kaori are, as Kaori really is the type of person Kosei needs to give him encouragement and the push to break out of his depressing view of playing music. And because us the viewer grows a strong desire to see Kosei overcome this challenge, it just amplifies Kaori's likability for rooting for Kosei, along with being the one who first inspires and pushes him towards this goal, with the result of this being an extremely large amount of amazing drama scenes, as it becomes rare not to go an episode without one, and like any good drama, it makes use of the very strong relatable characters, which presents a reason to care about what's going on. A challenge to overcome being Kosei's damaged psyche along with a few other things, and lastly some genuine emotions, whether that is fear, determination, helplessness, or sadness, as we see characters being completely broken down, all while having a believable build up to this point, usually with flashbacks or explanation as to not make the emotions feel forced, with the result of this being the development of the characters, as Kosei grows throughout the whole story as a result of Kaori. Now, the one problem I feel people might be concerned about with the drama is that some might see it as having a very spastic tone. And I do see and understand their perspective. Heck, I even agree with it on a very minute scale. But first off, having jokes and drama by its own nature isn't a bad thing, so long as they don't have the jokes/high energy get distracting from the drama. If you use this in the right way, which this show does for the most part, jokes can create a contrast for the drama, as going from happiness to sadness is way more of a slam in the viewer's emotions than just going from sadness to more sadness. Secondly, jokes can help present a character by having them do things that are unique. And as for the possibility of being distracting, most of the scenes aren't, as the outbursts that are usually given by our ball of energy Kaori have a purpose to present her character or to just vocally slap Kosei out of some mindset, with most of these outbursts not even lasting 15 seconds so that they do not distract from the feels. But as for the ones that do last longer, they are usually followed after the dramatic event is finished and hence not interrupting the drama. Although, to be fair, I would be lying if I thought this was always the case, with give or take 3 scenes where I could see the tone being a problem, such as one early on when Kaori mistakenly calls Kosei a pervert. With the main problem here being, unlike her other outbursts, this came at the peak of a dramatic scene in an out-of-place way. And lastly, it is drawn out way too long and really grabs too much attention to it. But hey, the show is 22 episodes long and has a massive amount of amazing drama scenes, so a few hiccups isn't a major problem and it is thankfully a nitpick. But even if you find these outbursts very distracting, there are still a large amount of scenes that do not have this element in them at all, especially as the anime gets closer to its end. Not to mention, they all have the amazing positives I talked about before going for them. Another powerful point to this story is what surprisingly strong tension it was able to create for the musical performances. Even though they were just playing musical instruments, the scenes created so much tension. First of all, they present the seriousness of the performing world very well, such as the parent pushing their kid to perform well, or one of the performers throwing up in the bathroom. And because the performers are taking this event seriously, it helps present to us the viewer its serious nature and thus tension. Next, they strongly present the possibility of failure, as Kosei needs to mentally fight to hear the music, which easily had so much more tension in fact than several large-scale fight scenes that other anime have attempted. But the key factor here is how much they stress that this is important to the characters with several episodes of build-up behind them. And since the characters are so extremely easy to root for, you can't help but be on the edge of your seat as you desperately hope that all the practice the characters did isn't made in vain. Furthermore, they don't always succeed and do fail, which just raises the tension even more as we know that success is not guaranteed. Now, like I've said before in the past, one of the ways to create a very memorable quote-unquote duo is to have both of them play off of each other and support each other in things they lack. Kaori helps Kosei in the first half of the anime in ways I've already listed, which then leads to Kosei helping Kaori in the second half of the anime. Now I will try to present this without spoilers, although it will require a little less detail. But it is worth talking about since it is an important part that helps create great interactions and drama, as Kaori has to confront something that, let's say, becomes a great burden on her, especially considering her character and her lively personality. The result of this is yet again another element that helps create very touching drama between her and Kosei, with a multiple of different emotions to show from this, from joy to deep depression, which results in a very meaningful and touching ending that helps bring out the characters. Moving on, I also want to make notice of the beautiful animation, and not just how it looks, but also for how it helps present the story and the characters. Starting off, the technical quality of the animation is very pleasing with its strong use of vivid colors, pleasing backgrounds, and unique character designs that helps give the anime a distinguished appearance. On a side note, some of the designs for some of the kids were just so cute with their eyes, and sometimes a bit creepy too, but it's cute also, right? Now, even with all of these positives, I do have one small complaint, being sometimes they don't animate someone playing an instrument. And it kinda looks odd and lazy when you hear music coming from a person playing and they're not moving. But to be fair, yet again this is just a small nitpick, as this event is fairly uncommon. Now, nice animation is nice animation, but my large-scale praise for the animation is the effect it has on the presentation. For example, they use color to represent mood and atmosphere, along with several other aspects associated with different characters. How they make the decision not to draw Kosei's mother's eyes for most of the time, notably as she is getting abusive, helps to create very strong psychological symbolism, as we use our eyes to make judgments of the world around us, and hence she cannot judge or see the pain she is causing Kosei. Along with this, we get to see how he is haunted by images of his mother that his mind cooks up during his performances, which helps clearly show his challenge of shaking off the negative effects his mother left on him. A black cat is also used to help represent what is going on in his mind in a unique, interesting, and abstract way. And lastly, one of my favorites is how they use the metaphor of Kosei being underwater as for how he feels when he is performing. They could have just said, "Oh look, Kosei can't hear the notes, and he feels like he's 10 feet underwater." But rather, they were so much more smart by giving a visual representation of how Kosei feels. You know, one thing I really love is when anime and movies take full advantage of them being an audible and a visual medium. The animation created so much more than just nice characters, but rather a really strong presentation to go along with it. Okay, so Kosei and Kaori were amazing characters, but luckily the anime also had some great side characters to go along with them. Kosei's childhood rivals were interesting in how they explored different aspects and how Kosei's affected them through his music, whether that was inspiration or just plain admiration, which helps present the idea of Kosei living up to his legend, how he feels about this, how others feel about it, and how they in the end all work off of each other to improve. Next, Tsubaki's explanation helps present Kosei's past, along with exploring how she reacts and feels about the events that are going on. We really get a legitimate reason why these two are friends, with several events being shown from this, whether that's just getting popsicles or egging Kosei to jump off of a bridge. You really end up with the feeling that you really get to know these characters, which results in when Tsubaki fears losing her lifelong friend, we know why she would feel like this and are able to sympathize with her. In conclusion, Your Lie in April is nothing short of being absolutely brilliant. Any flaws it may have are extremely small and are tiny compared to the massive amount of positives. The characters are extremely strong with very legitimate reasons to care about them, combined with a compelling story that brings along with it realistic emotions and a very memorable drama, with the icing on top being how unique and well thought out its presentation was. And what more can I say besides massive amounts of more fan gushing? This is absolutely amazing and I would definitely call this a must watch. Hello there, dear beautiful viewer. Welcome to the magical land of Endslate. Yay! Perhaps you may be so inclined to watch a video. You're doing it right now. Why not keep this trend going? Trended on Twitter, something. Anyway, we have my review of Ruby, which is newly restored and back to life. And as our side act, we have my review of 11 Eyes up there. Along with the links in the description, there's also my hummingbird and my Twitter account, where I say weird stuff sometimes, or just ramble on about copyright. Actually, now that I don't really have any more copyright to complain about, I'll have to think of legitimate things. This is gonna be a dark time for me, isn't it?